Welcome to our next session, Defending the Financial Sector During a Time of Crisis and After. In this session, Brigadier General retired Ron Shahor, the founder and CEO of Holistic Cyber, is going to discuss the challenges that financial organizations face during a time of crisis, the solutions, the holistic approach, and the secret sauce needed in order to be protected and stay ahead of the curve. With that, let me turn this over now to Ron. Ron?
Hi, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. I hope you are all safe and healthy. Now, we need to admit that this COVID-19 pandemic have caught us all by surprise, and CISOs all over the world are asking themselves, what is the best way to defending the financial sector during the time of this crisis and after. Now, surprising as it may look, the young general with the black full hair in the picture is myself 26, 27 years ago. I was the head of the SOD, Special Operation Department, within the intelligence force of the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces. And in that capacity, 26 years ago, I have actually started the first cyber program in the IDF. That was actually the first cyber program all over the world. Now, I was the head of this organization, and it was a very powerful and successful organization. But I was worried. I was worried because I was trying to think, what will happen 2, 6, 20 years down the road? So I gathered the leadership of my organization in a small village next to Jerusalem for 2 weeks of brainstorming. And one of the important outcomes of this brainstorming was this cyber program. Now, we are talking about 96, where internet was mainly in universities and mobile was for rich people. But we thought at that time that moving to mobility and moving to the IP protocol would create a lot of opportunity within the intelligence space. And we also thought that in the future, nation states would attack each other not only by missiles, but also by attacking critical infrastructure, dams, road lights, utilities, but also important financial corporates. And we thought that in order to protect ourselves, we need to know how to attack back and how to attack. So we started this program. Initially, there was a furious opposition to the program. People thought and said, this young general has lost his mind. He's investing money, resources in science fiction, things that would never happen. But luckily, we were stubborn enough. And one of the reasons Israel is better protected than the rest of the world is because we have started good 7, 8, 10 years before anybody else. Let's take a look now at the world before this crisis. So the world of cyber was totally changed 6, 7 years ago. All those organizations, those financial organizations, were hacked and hurt very, very badly. And the interesting part is that a moment before they find out about the attack, they felt as if they are very, very well protected. And they had good reason to think so, because they have prudently complied with the legal compliance. They have ran all the best practices. They have all the usual suspects defending them, the IBM, the Accenture, the Big Four, yet they were hacked and hurt very, very badly. And the reason for that is that the balance that was there for about 20 years between attackers and defenders, had you bought the right firewall and the right antivirus, you were pretty good protected. But this balance was totally broken 6-7 years ago. Attackers became much more aggressive, sophisticated, and even bold, and defenders could not react properly. From the attacker side, there are 3 reasons for that. The first reason is trivial. Cyber attack is very profitable business and involve no or almost no personal risk. You know, in the past, if you wanted to make the difference, you had to invest billions of dollars. When we are talking about cyber attacks, we are talking about totally different magnitude of investment. The second reason is that those hackers are using attack tools that used to be owned by nation state only, Israel, but mainly NSA, that was stolen by a Russian group by the name of shadow brokers, and it is now for sale for $200, $300, $400 in the darknet. So every 12 or 13 years old hacker can simply go to the darknet, pay $300, and buy an equivalent of a nuclear submarine and take a bank, a large bank, down. And more than that, if I want to attack each one of you, I don't have to buy these tools. I can buy it as a service. These are screenshots from the darknet itself. And as you can see, it is very easy. I can buy plastic plan, a diamond plan, gold plan, very easy to use. There is a support line, not legal, but very easy and not very expensive. The third reason, which is more recent, but not less dangerous, or maybe even more dangerous, is the fact that for many years, there was some kind of an understanding that nation state will take nation state and hackers will take banks. No more. Behind most of the large 2 years attacks, it is done by hackers, but it is heavily supported, sponsored, and even commanded by nation states. Russia, North Korea, Iran, and China. And many others are joining. No wonder in the last 2 years, we see more and more multi-dimensional, multi-layer, and multi-channel attacks that are very sophisticated. Now, defenders could not react properly. First, because of fundamental, severe shortage of trained cybersecurity personnel. But the real challenge is that there is a clear understanding today that the only way to efficiently deal with this new wave of sophistication and aggressiveness from the attacker side, you need to be able to think like the attacker. And the only efficient way to think like the attacker is if you have an attacker background yourself. And in the Western world, to get a person with good attacker background, it is either impossible in more countries, and in the US and the UK, where it is possible, it is very expensive. Because the NSA, the CIA, the MI5, the MI6, they have very good units, but they are very efficient organizations. They hire the people right after university, and most of them go all the way to retirement. And only few would live in between, and because of that, they are very expensive. The only exception to that in the Western world is Israel. And not because Israel is more clever or more talented, but because of the system. In Israel, joining the military is mandatory. So every year, 130,000 boys and girls are joining the military, out of which the military have the privilege to pick the brightest 1,000, walk them through extremely intensive cybersecurity and technology course that is equivalent to 6-7 years in a university. But more importantly, right after those courses, those geniuses are taking part in mission-critical, state-of-the-art, most sophisticated in the world defense, but mainly attack missions. But by the age of 30, 95, 96% of them would leave to the private markets. Why? Because those organizations, the Israeli NSA, CIA, the Mossad, the A200, my unit, they don't need so many people. And they have a fresh flow of 1,000 world-class cyber experts every year. And they don't have to pay them for the first 3 years because service is mandatory. And they need only 3-4% to become colonel and generals like myself. So the system actually allowing an annual constant flow of 1,000 world-class cyber experts that are much better educated, more sophisticated, more creative than the worst hackers of the world, yet they are good people. You can trust them, they're very reliable. My son is one of them, and you can imagine how proud I am. Let's go now back to the current crisis. Now, no doubt it is a huge, huge global crisis, but the enemy is external. So one could expect the world to be united, to combine forces, to share information, to try to solve this crisis together. Unfortunately, the picture is almost the opposite. Apart from the medical community, many countries hiding information, conspiracy theory prevailing from both sides. And we all know that geopolitical tension is an immediate accelerator for nation state and nation state grade attack. And you can read it in the NSA, CIA, DOD, and many other reports that it is happening right now. In addition to that, we need to assume that new players are going to join the party. I just read a fascinating article in the New York Post describing how the local mafia is looking desperately for new sources of income because they lost the old ones. Now, what is more immediate and more profitable than cybercrime? Now, from my own experience as a attacker, and as you remember, I was a attacker for many years, I can tell you that an attacker is an attacker. An attacker would always take advantage when the defender's mind is elsewhere. We all remember the Bangladesh bank attack when illegal $1 billion transfer took place during Chinese New Year, and it was a weekend. Both Time Halt and the attack over the Democratic National Committee took place on the 4th of July. But in this COVID-19 crisis, we are talking about totally different magnitude. Within days, 90% of personnel need to work from home. And we all know that home networks are 3-4 times more vulnerable and contain more malwares. Back-end professionals are very far from core. Privileged access people need to work from home. On-prem have become on-prem have become off-prem. And we all know that Zoom is a wonderful target for attackers. But not only Zoom, CyberArk just released 2 warnings on Team Microsoft and Skype. And we should expect that it is going to get even worse. If you want to take a look specifically at the financial sector, so there is a very interesting report by Carbon Black indicating that out of all attacks, the financial sector moved up in the last 2 months from 38% to 52%. This is huge. 38 is high as well, but 52, this is huge. Another interesting example is trick bots, when the victim was the client, but in many cases, the banks have decided to reimburse the client because of this attack. We know that many M&As are going to take place, and this is very sensitive as well. And if you want to go back to the old-fashioned tradition, so North Korea, Iran directly, and other countries indirectly involved in cyber bank robberies just in order to improve their budgets. So if you want to look at the bottom line, and it is written in all reported, in the FBI, CIA, but also in McKinsey, Cisco, Checkpoint report. So the bottom line is that today, everyone, everywhere, and every time is a potential target for a nation-state grade attack. So no wonder CISOs are very, very worried all over the world. They have some internal challenge, some external challenge, because they need to assume that a successful phishing campaign have launched over their network during this period of working from home. And they know that geopolitical tension would necessarily lead to more and more nation-state grade attack. And internally, most of them would have to deal with that with reduced budget and smaller internal defense team. Now, have we lost the war? Not at all. Let's see now what it takes to prevail. What qualities, let's see first, what qualities each CISO need to make sure its trusted advisor, its defenders have. So I'm talking about mainly 5 elements. First, the team, methodology, holistic approach, darknet, good access, and automation in order to be more efficient. Let's have a few words about each of these elements. First of all, the team. You need to make sure your defenders have a world-class, hands-on cyber experts. And it's better, much better, if some of them would have ex-intelligence agencies, attacker background. It is very, very important, because by the end of the day, it is very much dependent on the team. The second element is methodology, not less important. In holistic cyber, we call it OFM, Offensive Framework Methodology, meaning we act as your defender, as your trusted advisor, but we do it from the attacker point of view. Because knowing the attacker so well, knowing what would frighten the attacker, what would exhaust the attacker, what would make the attacker go to the other bank, and also knowing what is probable right now, what is probable in 5 months, in a year, in 2 years, and what is probable at all, allows us to wisely prioritize, to take calculated risk, to be very, very practical. And this is a must today. The second element, the third element is you need to make sure that your defender would adopt a holistic approach. The defender needs to understand very well your business processes, and together with you define and protect your critical strategic assets, and then deal not only with your cyber systems, but also with the supply chain and the HR, which are usually the critical points in your defense. Next, you need to make sure that obviously your defenders have good access to darknet intelligence, because intelligence is the base of everything, and proprietary technology that allowing to automate and to be more and more efficient. So the defense principles are almost painfully simple. Defend what matters. Prioritize. Take calculated risks, because there is no such thing as zero risk. And if you try to take zero risk, you are actually creating a larger risk. Be practical. Advance defense technologies in order to be more efficient, and take an holistic approach. Now, those are not slogans. Those are call for actions. Let's go now to the bottom, really the bottom line. Each one of you responsible for the defense, the cyber defense of its organization, of his organization. And we all need to understand that if you do not prioritize, if you are not willing or afraid to take calculated risks, you are actually taking much bigger risks to your organization. Because trying to defend everything is actually as if you are defending nothing. Let me finish with the famous story about the bear in Alaska. Tim and John went camping in Alaska. Morning came, they came out of the tent, and then they saw a furious, huge bear running at them. So Tim said, John, can you pass me the running shoes? And John said, what do you need the running shoes for? The bear would outrun you anyway. And Tim said, I don't have to outrun the bear. I have to outrun you. Now in the business, in the cyber business, it is pretty much the same. You cannot and need not to be fully protected. You need to be better protected. You need to be better protected than your industry. You need to be better protected than your competition. And as a attacker, I'm telling you that the attacker would notice it immediately and go to the other bank. You need not to outrun the bear. You need to outrun your friend. Thank you very much.
Ron, thank you. Really appreciate your time and insight today. We have the opportunity now to take questions from the attendees, and you will see them come through on the chat window on your screen. Ron Shahor, again, thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.